Welcome to Sisflix, the podcast where we won't judge you for talking through the movie. Sisflix are the movies you laugh at, yearn for, and overanalyze with your girls, significant others, and now us.
We are your hosts,
Paola
and Nadhya, two sisters and designers who discuss chick flicks we hate to love,
tropes we love to hate,
and all of the aesthetic choices in between. Join us as we break down our favorite movies together.
Hey, sister.
Hey, sister.
Sisters, welcome to a little bonus minisode about our experience seeing Romeo and Juliet on Broadway. So we posted a little bit about this on our Instagram stories, and a lot of you responded with questions asking for more details. So we thought we'd quickly record something short to throw up on the main feed for you guys. These are the types of discussions we usually cover in our Sisflix hit clips. Our mostly monthly, side discussions on things we've been watching, things we've been doing, things that have been top of mind, which recently has been very politically driven, but we needed a bit of a respite. So we took ourselves to go see Romeo and Juliet as a Valentine's Day treat for the sisters of the pod. So here we are. We're here to talk about Romeo and Juliet, starring the wonderful Kit Connor and Rachel Zegler.
Before we get to our opinions and our thoughts on the show, a little bit about kind of like the staging and the costuming and the music and stuff, let's get into the background just a little bit. Let's pretend this is a little baby Sisflix episode. So this production of Romeo and Juliet was staged at Broadway's Circle in the Square Theater, which is a theater that is in the round. So the stage is a circular platform that is in the center of a bunch of ascending leveled seating, like almost like arena style seating. I thought it was a really awesome way to put together this show. I think it made for really interesting dynamic viewing, and it also gives you the impression that no matter where you're sitting in the audience, you have a valuable seat. You have a valuable line of sight into whatever is happening. As Paola mentioned, this cast is headed by Kit Connor. You know him, you love him from Heartstopper, as well as many other things. He's been acting for a long time, but he is our Nick Nelson in Heartstopper. Kit Connor played Romeo Montague. Rachel Zegler from West Side Story, Hunger Games, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. We know her. We love her. She's so talented. Stars as Juliet Capulet. The supporting cast is Gabby Beans, starring as Mercutio / the Prince / the Friar. A few different actors take on multiple roles in this show, and it really pares down the cast. I thought that was a really interesting move on behalf of like the directors, but I think it worked. I really liked it. I think they handled it really well.
No, yeah, I thought it was great. Like, you would think you would get confused, but the actors actually do a great job of like getting in and out of character. And there's very little wardrobe change. There's very little props. It's really all in their demeanor. They might change a vest. They might change one item of clothing, and it lets you know that they're in another character. But mostly it's their demeanor. I mean, they're great actors and they did an amazing job. At no point are you like, wait, hold on. Where are we? No. Yeah. And it's funny too. They like really...
They really ham it up. We also have Daniel Bravo Hernandez as Abraham, Josiah Chase Owens as Gregory, Tommy Dorfman as Tybalt / the nurse. Tommy Dorfman was probably one of my favorite parts of this show.
Oh, absolutely.
She was incredible.
Yes.
Nahar Devori as Balthazar, Shola Fadiran as Lord and Lady Capulet, Tahin Modoc as Benvolio, Guion Perez as Samson / Paris / Peter.
I think my favorite was Tommy Dorfman. She does such an amazing job, again, like we were saying, of like just the demeanor in their character and
the physicality, the movement,
and the movement of everything. Phenomenal. Sola Fadaran, who did Lord and Lady Capulet, was hilarious.
Incredible.
Oh man, I loved it. Performance amazing. Fills the room. And then, I mean, I don't have to tell you, Kit Connor. Like, those are my top 3. Blew me away performances.
Absolutely. Let's get into a little bit of the background. The director of this show is Tony Award winner Sam Gold. So he won the Tony for Fun Home. It's not the first time that he's actually done a Shakespeare tragedy on Broadway. He's also done Macbeth and King Lear. This is the newest version, right? The newest version of Romeo and Juliet. The music was done by the Grammy Award-winning producer Jack Antonoff. I probably don't really need to tell you who Jack Antonoff is. Besties with Taylor Swift, the band Bleachers, formerly of the band Fun. Just an incredibly prolific and successful producer. Again, Taylor Swift, Lorde, and Lana Del Rey. Very notable clientele right there. Movement. So this is one that I thought was really, really important. The movement director or movement coordinator is Tony winner Sonia Taye. She won the Tony for Moulin Rouge. And as far as movement direction choreography, like that was probably outside of the acting, my favorite part of this show.
Oh, yeah.
The physicality is like crackling with energy. Like they are running, they're playing, they're throwing each other around, they're fighting, kissing, they're shoving. It's so much energy for the entire 2 hours, right, that you're watching. It's so engaging. It's so captivating. The scenic design, so the production design, you guys know we love, was done by Dots. Costume design by Enver Chakartosh, and lighting design by Isabella Bird. So the lighting I thought was also like really atmospheric, really, really cool, very like technicolor and bright at times. And like it was very good at training your eye onto only what was important about that scene, regardless of what else was going on stage. And sound design by Cody Spencer. Hair and wig design was done by Robert Pickens and Katie Gell.
And honestly, I mean, the whole show is the lighting and sound design. The music and the lighting is what sets the tone of the whole show. I found that to be super interesting. And having that in a round stage, I think really worked best for that, right? Because you're not looking at anyone's back really. For them, the audience is all around them. Mm-hmm. And anytime they're delivering a line, they're turning, they're engaging everyone.
And this production actually marks the Broadway debut of Kit Connor, Rachel Zegler, and Jack Antonoff as music coordinator, producer, supervisor. In a quote from an article in Deadline, the director, Sam Gold, said, quote, "With the presidential election coming up in November, I felt like making a show this fall that celebrates youth and hope and unleashes the anger young people feel about the world they are inheriting." End quote.
I love that. That's exactly what I got.
Yeah.
I mean, even in the promo for everything, one of the main lines that's used throughout their promo posters, you know, merchandise is "the youth are fucked."
So yeah, as Paola said, that line is used on merch in the official synopsis. The official synopsis from Broadway.com, which reads, quote, "The youth are fucked. Left to their own devices in their parents' world of violent ends, an impulsive pair of star-crossed lovers hurtle towards their inescapable fate. The intoxicating high of passion quickly descends into a brutal chaos that can only end one way." End quote.
Something that struck me as we were making our way in, when you're walking in, before you even get to the theater, so I guess what you would consider the lobby, there's a ton of teddy bears everywhere.
Varying in color and varying in size.
And as you're walking into the theater and you're finding your seats, the cast is already on the stage, hanging out, dancing, doing flips. You're still essentially invisible to them. There's no interaction between them and the audience. You as the audience, you're walking in and you're finding your seats. You're just seeing a whole bunch of young actors on the stage. Like we walked in and Kit Connor was just like laying on the ground.
Yep.
But something that they're all doing is they're all playing with teddy bears. There's teddy bears everywhere and they're throwing them at each other, jumping over them, kicking them, whatever. And to me, it reminds you this is about kids, essentially. Young teenagers are at the center of this story. Juliet is no older than 14. So you can imagine in her room, hugged up to a teddy bear. So I love the symbolism of that because the teddy bears once you're in the show, they don't really come up again. It's just kind of around you.
It's this reminder of youth.
It's this reminder of innocence. They even had teddy bears like stuffed into what looked like scaffolding, kind of. And I was like, oh my God, it's like they're trapped. It's like their youth is trapped. They can't get out. That desperation. So in that, I see two things. One, the youth is trapped feeling like desperate. And two, they're growing up too fast. They're dying to break free of their youth. And that's what we see in the actions of Romeo and Juliet, right? They jump into this relationship. They're obsessed with each other. They're in love. They get married. All of this happens within hours. I thought the symbolism of that was so cool.
100%. Yes, I agree with you. And I think the combination of the movement design, the choreography, the sharp lighting, like Euphoria type lighting.
Yes.
And the music all come together really well because they're really communicating that desperation.
Yeah.
The movements, that would be the number one adjective I would use to describe the movement. Desperate. They're constantly running. They're breathless. Everyone is running out of time. There's no patience. There's no lollygagging. There's no dawdling. Like, you are rushing through absolutely everything. And I think probably one of the best parts of the direction given to the actors playing Romeo and Juliet, Kay Connor and Rachel Zegler, is to emphasize their youth. I think something that we commonly forget as students study Romeo and Juliet, as people consume stories that are based on Romeo and Juliet, they're literally children. Like, I'm 31. I could have been Juliet's mom. I could have been Romeo's mom. So, like, they're babies and they're middle schoolers and high schoolers. They're acting ridiculous. They're making stupid choices. A middle schooler and a high schooler date and fall in love and decide to get married. Like, that's how
literally
you have to look at
middle schooler. Yeah, literally.
A 7th grader and a sophomore in high school. Like, that is how you have to think about it. And then it kind of recontextualizes the whole story because everyone's like, oh, it's so romantic. And it's like, no. It's not romantic. It's schoolyard crushes and stupid kids. And this allegory of older generations leaving younger generations to fight their battles. Younger generations being the ones to bear the brunt of conflicts borne out by their parents, conflicts borne out by their grandparents. And that's, as you know, the director so aptly described, like, that's really what we're living through. The younger generation right now is living through all of the bad decision making of their parents, whether that's with regard to the environment, with regard to the government, with regard to social norms, money, like,
no, and very specifically are subject to their parents' biases. You know, because your parents was enemies with this group of people. Now you're raised to be the enemy of this group of people. But you don't really know why. You don't know why that is. You reach across the aisle, whatever that aisle might be. You fall in love with someone. And then now you're like, oh, this is all fucking bullshit. But then you still have the older generation challenging you at every step and also trying to rip you apart from that. And for example, no, Juliet, you're going to marry this person. And setting up her future without
her consent or her input. And it's that same constraint that makes them so desperate. Romeo and Juliet, sure, you can believe that they were in love, but what really brings them together is the desperation of the forbidden, right? Like, the forbidden love that you're not supposed to have. If they could sit and think for like 10 minutes because they are not worried that their parents hate each other and they don't have to hide their relationship and they don't have to keep it secret, then it would have been completely normal and totally chill. Like,
they would have just seen each other at a party and then hung out the next day.
Exactly. And been like, oh, maybe we should hang out again. That'd be kind of nice. Like, that would be the story, right? Like, there would be no conflict, but the conflict is wrought by their parents' parents, like, it's generations.
Their families.
Yeah, like, bearing down on them. I think that was demonstrated just really, really well, especially because the cast is so young. Like, they're all in their early mid-20s. They have a very young affect. The way that they're dressed, right? Like, they give off this very Gen Z energy, honestly, for lack of a better way to put it. It's
absolutely
very thrifted 90s rave clothes. Like, that's kind of what they're wearing.
I love how Gen Z just means like 90s.
Gen Z means
now.
90s. Well, literally, it means like a reinterpretation of the 90s. 90s
it really
with
is.
iPhones. 90s with TikTok. Like,
I don't hate that.
No, for sure.
Yeah, I almost admire it.
Yeah, I mean, they've got moxie, these kids. So it's very much like a Romeo plus Juliet, Leonardo DiCaprio, Claire Danes, like a 90s but 2025 gays. Some of the costumes are like a little gender bent. A lot of them are a bit GNC. Some of the characters play characters of different genders than to how they present as actors. And I think it's really successful. I think you get this like really nice fluidity. The actors obviously get a bigger challenge and they have a lot more fun, and they're kind of able to explore like different parts of their performance. I thought it was a really successful production, and I loved the staging. I mean, the music design, it's almost like it was scored like a movie. Like, I am not in the habit of watching a lot of plays just because plays cost money and feel luxurious. And this is the first play that I've seen in a long time, but it felt like it had this like backing score.
It's not a musical by any means.
No.
But I believe there's about 2 songs that are sung. 3 songs if you count a little skit they do in the middle of the show right before intermission, where one of the characters tries to get the audience to sing "We Are Young." Why is that, Nadhya?
Because "We Are Young" is a song by the band Fun, which Jack Antonoff was part of before he went off to do Bleachers and before he became like the producer that he is today.
Thought that was hilarious. Awesome.
Also, not for nothing, that song is a bop.
Always a bop, for sure. And then Sola Fataran sings a song as, I forget if it's as Lady Capulet or is if that's Lord Capulet. But the one song that Rachel Zegler sings is called "Man of the House." Mm-hmm. Beautiful freaking song. Mm-hmm. "Man of the House," sung by Rachel Zegler and written by Jack Antonoff and Ryan Beatty. Released in October of this year. You can listen to it anywhere. It's a gorgeous song. Mm-hmm. And her voice is amazing.
Oh, yeah. She sings like breathing. It's so effortless for her. She was truly amazing. Effortless.
So clear. Fills the whole theater.
I thought she was amazing. I will say the songs did feel a little bit out of place, but they were so good. I didn't fucking care.
What do you mean felt out of, like the songs that were sung felt out of place?
No, like just them stopping to sing a song. There are only like 2 instances kind of inside of the show where they do that. And then you're kind of like, what?
Got it. I mean, I love them. I love the additions of the songs.
Yeah.
I saw it as like their thinking process. Like this is the voice in her head singing this song. And then they play the melody throughout different parts of the play, which, you know, always just strikes an emotional chord, you know, when you're watching and in scenes with Kit Connor, and it'll just start playing. So, you know, it's going to be an emotional moment. I love that shit.
I love that shit. There was a point where we see Romeo after he is banished from Verona, and he is alone humming the melody of "Man of the House," the song that Rachel Zegler as Juliet sang earlier in the show. And that was an arrow into my heart. I was like, that is my shit.
I love that shit. So I can't be mad at it. I'm like, I eat that shit up.
Oh, no, I do. Yeah.
I'm like, is Kit Connor singing? Like, when's his turn? I'm like, I want to, who else is singing?
More.
Give me more. Give me more songs, more melodies.
It's fair.
But also I'm a musical lover, so.
That's true. We're both musical lovers. So we would have been down. If they were like, hey, Romeo and Juliet's a musical now, we would have been like, bet.
Hell yeah.
I'm buying tickets again. Yeah. Like, just going back a little bit beyond the music, like we've talked about this a little bit before already, but like a little bit more into some of their acting choices, just because I want to give these folks their flowers. Like Kit Connor, Rachel Zegler, they were obviously incredible. I also want to say that Tommy Dorfman, who played Tybalt / the nurse, incredible, like superb. As Paola mentioned, the actor that played Lord and Lady Capulet, Sola Fataran, like incredible. I mean, the way they transition between their characters so well.
Seamlessly.
Again, with so much energy, so much physicality. And I really do credit the movement coordinator, the choreographer with that. Another thing that was really impressive about the acting, aside from like all of the energy and the desperation conveyed by movement, is how much they use the entirety of not even just the stage, they use the entirety of the theater. They're running in and out of the aisles. They're crossing between aisles of patrons, like seated watching the show. They're climbing up into the rafters of the theater. There are descending set pieces, ascending set pieces. Like, for a show that has such simple staging with regard to production design, like not a wealth of props, not a wealth of set pieces, the set pieces that they do use are used really, really well, and they're really compelling.
Yeah.
And it's also such a testament to their acting as well that they're able to kind of communicate that the setting is different with just the behavior plus the lighting design. The lighting design is like, you get this warm honey colored light, they're outside. You get these sharp like spotlights that are these bright kind of white lights, and you're like, okay, well, they're in a moment where they're alone. And then you get this blood red lighting around the entirety of the theater that gives you this kind of like foreboding, like anxiety. And it's so satisfying. Like, the lighting design was incredible. More flowers. It was all so good.
And speaking of flowers, like, there's two major set design pieces.
Mm-hmm.
One of them being Juliet's bed that comes down from the ceiling. And this is, if you've seen any clips of Romeo and Juliet, this is the part where you see that Romeo, Kit Connor, jumps up and like literally pulls himself up to give her a kiss. So that's the number one major set piece. It comes down to the stage and you're assuming she's in her room. When it's up kind of afloat, it's her balcony, right? The half of the floor of the stage of this circle, right? Half of the circle kind of flips open, and then under that is like tons of flowers. So then you assume it's the Capulet's garden where Romeo comes to talk to Juliet on her balcony, which is her bed that comes down. So those are the only two things that are physical, practical set design. Everything else is, again, like Nadhya saying, physicalities, and that's how you know where they are in whatever scene. So, y'all, when this man jumps up to this quote unquote balcony and pulls himself up there, like the whole theater's like, they share this amazing kiss. That's one part. That's great. We've all seen the videos. We've all seen the clips. All right. Something we're not all seeing just yet, or maybe you have if somebody snuck a video, but I haven't seen it. The first time I saw it when I was there watching the show. This man climbs up to this bed, right? And this is like the night they're like gonna give themselves to each other and do it.
Oh my God.
Well, what do you want me to say?
No, keep going.
This is the night they fuck. Yo, this man has been in the gym for 10 hours a day for 365 days.
He really do be out here looking like a rugby player.
Yo. And then he's on top of tiny Rachel Zegler.
I know. She's a sliver.
Just straddled over her. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I was like, he's a young adult. I could be his teenage mother, covering my eyes, but peeking.
I couldn't quite be his mother, but I could be his like much older sister. And like, there were literally points where I was like, I'm averting my eyes out of discomfort. And I kept having to kind of remind myself, like, no, they're acting. Like, Nadhya, look at them because they're acting. And then he'd be like shirtless or like in a tank top or something. I'd be like, no. Nope. I don't want to look. And then it's like, no, you have to look. They're acting. Like, that was the only thing that kept taking me out of it, that I just kept being like, oh my God.
I had no trouble looking. It was great.
The points at which the actors run through the audience or like run up and down the aisles, there's a moment where Kit Connor as Romeo ran up the aisle that was directly next to us. This dude was 10 feet away from us, lit by the brightest fucking spotlight. And we were just like, oh my God. Oh my God.
I can see the sweat come down his arm, like his brawny rugby arms.
There it is. Yep.
I kept thinking of Charlie. Oh, Charlie.
Oh, Charlie.
I'm like, Charlie, look at your beefy boyfriend.
Look at your mans.
Look at your man.
There's another point where Rachel Zegler as Juliet runs up the same aisle. She's 10 feet away from us. We're observing her delivering her lines. She, again, has such a powerful voice and such a tiny vehicle. Like, she's incredible. And
you watch her, you can't believe the voice that's coming out of this small figure.
Yeah. She's very petite. She was incredible to watch. And I just think like what she accomplished in her read of Juliet was how juvenile Juliet is. I think she,
Yes.
like, in her intonation, the way she, like, sings songs, a couple things, like, I'm not gonna quote the play directly because I don't know all the lines, but there are moments where she's like, and I'm gonna touch him. Like, she says something like that, and you're just like,
Like she's
oh,
in her
you're a
head.
kid.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
you are a kid. I feel like most productions of Romeo and Juliet that I've seen, they're fucking grown-ups. They're either elder teenagers that you can kind of fool yourself into believing they're adults, or they're legit adults who are these classically trained Shakespearean actors. But you're never kind of getting to the bare bones of the show, which is like children fighting, loving, dying over the sins of their parents.
And even having them in what we consider modern clothing does really drive that home, because she's like in tank tops and shorts.
She's literally in like denim shorts.
Yeah.
And like a crop top.
And so you see her and she's dressed like a young teenager. Whereas I feel like the closest thing that I would compare this to is the 90s Romeo and Juliet, right? With Claire Danes and Leonardo DiCaprio. Even in that adaptation, where it's kind of the same energy, right? You still have like this angsty modern energy. It's still modern clothing in a way for the 90s, right? But Claire Danes is like, when you see her character, she's in dresses. She's like in a dress. Like, she still has this Shakespearean vibe to her. She still has this Renaissance vibe to her, right? And it's almost like you can apply that to her and her setting, but not so much Romeo's. In that adaptation of Romeo and Juliet, I see Romeo as the more immature young one versus Juliet, because of her costuming and her hair and her surroundings. She has more of that 17th century vibe, which you kind of interpret as older, right? In this modern production of Romeo and Juliet, having them in modern clothes, and you're seeing Juliet in a little tank top and shorts running around barefoot on the stage, just like, she's a little girl.
She's a little girl, and then Romeo is like a himbo. Like Kit Connor has a very boyish face, but he looks like a man, right? Like he's tall, he's brawny, he's broad, and obviously has been in the gym. He's muscular, so you're like, all right, he's a guy, boyish, younger face, young 20s. So you're looking at him and you're like, you could be the one who's maybe a little bit older, taking this a little bit further. No, because his line delivery communicates perfectly that he's a teenager.
Yes.
His line delivery is like, ugh, but I love her. And you're just like, you're a whiny little baby. Like, you are an annoying, whiny little baby. And you do dumb stuff. And your feelings are mercurial. You're night and day, hot and cold on fucking everything. He literally starts the play by being in love with someone else. Goes to a party to try and find her, finds Juliet instead, decides he's in love with Juliet. This happens throughout the course of a day. So Romeo's a dumb baby. Whenever people are like, this is the greatest love story ever told, it's like two dumb babies. Where's the great love story? It's like, no, it's just an allegory for children fighting their parents' battles.
Truly. So it was a great show.
Oh, it was fantastic. Yeah.
I really hope that one day they might televise a stage performance similar to how we've been able to see various Broadway shows come onto streaming services like Hamilton, for example, that you're able to have that experience. I think that would be great, so that a broader audience can experience the show and get to see them. But to get a little taste of Kit Connor and Rachel Zegler as Romeo and Juliet, they have a music video to promote this show to the song Tiny Moves by Bleachers. So that's a fun watch. And even in the video, like, you see the teddy bears like I was talking about, you see their energy. It's a great video. I love it. It's a great music video. And honestly, I would say a really good movie that captivates the vibes of this show is honestly 1996's Romeo and Juliet with Claire Danes and Leonardo DiCaprio, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I wish this was something that everyone could see. I wish this is something we could see again. As we may have mentioned at the beginning, this was a really limited engagement. So it only ran for 16 weeks. It ran for 4 weeks in previews and then 16 as a full show. We saw it in its last week. I think we saw it on February 11th. It officially concluded on February 16th. So we got very lucky. We made it in just under the wire. I mean, it was really worthwhile. Like, I was so grateful to have seen it. We did not stick around and try to get like autographs or anything like that. The weather was like kind of shitty at the time we were leaving, and
When
Paola
we
had
were
to get
leaving,
home.
it was rain. It
Sleeting.
started
It was like
raining,
rain snowing.
and then it started snowing.
Yeah.
And so it was cold. It
Yeah.
was a very cold day. So we did not get to hang out for autographs, but who knows? Maybe next time.
Maybe next time. We'll see. Fingers crossed. But yeah, guys, I mean, that was a little bit of a more in-depth discussion on Romeo and Juliet on Broadway. Let us know what you guys think of this discussion, of this little Romeo and Juliet minisode. If you are into this, into the sound of this, this is the kind of stuff that you'll find us discussing over on Patreon or on our subscriber platforms. So subscribe on Spotify, subscribe on Patreon. You can support us. There are various tiers of support, the lowest one beginning at $2. So just a thought for y'all, if you are interested in a little bit more monthly Sisflix podcast content in your headphones, in your ears, in your brain.
Yeah, that's right. And that's where we kind of catch up on stuff we've been watching, doing, thinking,
feeling,
listening
to, seeing, wondering, pondering.
So you can hang with us there as well. So thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much for listening, guys. And as always, if you like what you heard and you want to hear more, please, please leave a review anywhere you get your podcasts. Find us at Sisflix Podcast on Instagram. Shoot us an email at sisflixpodcast@gmail.com and let us know if you have any movie requests or suggestions for something that we can cover in the future. Thanks, everyone.